in this chair. Hey, everybody. Well, I'm checking in here from La Casa de mis suegras. Suegros? Yes, there we go. Here in beautiful Sun City, West Arizona. And we're going to study the Bible today. Genesis chapter 1, starting in verse 26. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness." Good morning, Mike. And so, this is the beginning of the Bible, if you didn't know that already. But from the very beginning of the Bible, we begin to see the Trinity, the doctrine of the Trinity, the Godhead. Let us make man in our own image. And it's funny because that's how it reads in the Hebrew. And, to the Jew, that might be a bit stumbling. What is God trying to say? And so, I don't know, I feel like I could go super in depth on this, but I'm also trying to keep it condensed today. And so, hey, good morning to everyone who's hopping on, Steve and the other Steve and my dad. So, after this, let's make man in our own image. What does that mean? Well, we're fashioned after God's likeness. Perhaps Jesus didn't become a man like us, but that we were formed after the man like him. Think about it that way. Because he pre-existed, right? He made everything. So we were made in his image, his likeness. Mankind was made in the likeness of God. And if God looked like a duck, then we'd all look like ducks. And the ducks would have been the center of God's creation. I mean, that's kind of the idea. That God has the likeness of a man, or that more so that man has the likeness of what God looks like, which looks like a man. So, next, it says, "Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air." My phone fell down. Okay, there we go. Don't worry, I have this under control. Kinda. Okay, that was embarrassing. Let's see, can I turn this way? Hey, that works. Now you get a vision of the sky. Okay, did anyone fall over? Did anyone else get hurt? We're okay? Okay, moving on. Have dominion. Fish of the sea, birds of the air, cattle all over the earth, the creeping thing, the things that creep of the earth. We'll wrap that up here with the next second. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So right there kind of solves all the problems we're struggling with today, right? Male and female, he created them. Guess that's it. No third option, no fourth option, no fifth option, no 70 options. Dose. That's all we got. It's noted that God created them male and female, and when they were created, they were already chosen to be male or female. They didn't get to choose later. I don't want to be insensitive, and I don't want to, make another point. All I'm saying is that this is the way God made us, and we should be trying to embrace the way God made us and the way God does things, rather than trying to redefine everything and all science and logic by according to how we feel, what we want, and what not. And so male and female, verse 28, God blessed them. God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." Didn't I already read that? Maybe I did. No, I didn't. So, I'm going to knock out the rest of the chapter. Here we go. "And God said, See, I've given you every green herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, and shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, every bird of the air, everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food." And it was so. And then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Now, here's a couple things. Yes, I'll start with the minor fact. They were vegetarians. In the Garden of Eden, most scholars believe they were vegetarians. They did not eat meat. Why? Because nothing died. Nothing died because there was no sin yet. And death came through sin. So, there wasn't millions of animals dying and changing and dying and changing until finally monkeys became Adam and Eve. No, there was no death until sin. And so Adam and Eve survived for a season. We don't know exactly how long. We know that Seth was born when Adam was 120, so it had to be like under 100 years, but probably wasn't very long, knowing how quickly guys get into trouble. And the fact that you're naked in the garden with Eve, how long until they have a baby? That's funny, but it's also honest. Like, how long until they actually had kids? It probably wasn't 100 years before they finally had a kid. It probably happened relatively soon. So that said, they were vegetarians because there was no death until the fall. And then I think they were still vegetarians because it's not till the time of Genesis 6, 7, 8 with Moses after the flood where God tells them to kill the animals to eat because there would be no plants. Like, I mean, they brought back the olive. Things started to grow, but God told them to eat animals. And God said that was okay and good. So you can't say that we all need to be vegetarian because Adam and Eve were vegetarians, because God then commands them to eat meat later. That also doesn't mean it's wrong to be a vegetarian because God commanded to eat meat. All I'm saying is that you can't go either way with the scripture, saying it's better or worse scripturally. Now, it says to have dominion over the animals and over the earth and to subdue it. And I had a good conversation about this just recently, about subduing the earth. Now, we have to understand, subdue means subdue. I looked up the word and did a little word search, and it talks about when they go into Canaan, they're supposed to subdue the nations that were there. David had a bunch of treasures and riches from all the nations which he subdued. You know, it means to put under your subjection and your control. That said, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, the Greek equivalent and what would be here in the Septuagint, Paul says, I put my body into subjection. He subdues his own body. Why? Because he wanted to be effective with the gospel and not be disqualified. Good morning, Laura. He didn't want to be disqualified. And so Paul put his own body in subjection. So now, with this context, he says to subdue the whole earth, all the animals, the trees, and everything else. And I think we can learn from this. I had a good conversation with some believers on Facebook about, trees and saving the forests. And one thing we all agreed on, actually, is that we are to be stewards of God's creation. Now, some people want to lean more one way and more the other, but here's the short part. Is I actually told them as we were talking, what really hit me is that if we evolved from animals and the stronger ones beat out the less strong ones, and it's just about survival and survival of the fittest, well, I have then absolutely no reason to want to preserve a species from extinction. I mean, whatever. If I like the way that spotted owl eggs taste in my omelet for breakfast, then so be it. I'm the stronger species. And if trees don't want to get cut down, they should evolve themselves a defense mechanism because I'm smarter than they are. But if God, a loving God and a purposeful God, created everything we have around us, He created it for us to use it, but He also doesn't want us to screw it up. So He wouldn't want me to destroy animal species that He created out of my own foolishness and out of, just my recklessness. He wouldn't want me to cripple the creation He gave me by logging it, mining it, or whatever, to some foolish, there's an emphasis on that word foolish, to a foolish extent to where I no longer can have sustainable wood because I killed everything. And so there's a balance there. But truly, a Christian worldview and a biblical worldview, actually, it would actually promote the saving the environment, which is typically held by liberal people who don't have a Christian worldview. Not everyone. Again, these are some broad brushes here, but it's just a reminder. Paul subdued his own body. So that obviously the point there wasn't to beat himself to a pulp to where he wasn't able to function anymore. No, he was purposeful, intentional. And he made sure that what he was doing was trying to make it so that he could be efficient and effective with the gospel. And so it's just kind of an interesting thing, as we talked about this verse in this conversation I had, just about subduing the earth. And it's like, yeah, subduing isn't about beating the earth to a pulp to where we can't use it. But on the flip side, it was given to us to use. And so striking a balance between those two things will help us have a very biblical and effective view when it comes to animal and wildlife and plant conservation, because, yeah, it's for us to use. Absolutely, without a doubt, that's what the Bible says. And we would be foolish to use it foolishly. I'm one of those guys, like, I pick up garbage when I go on walks. Why? Because this is God's planet. And so I try and be respectful. Once again, he gave it to me to use. See, I'll preach both sides hard. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but it's his. And I'm going to pick up his room because other people have trashed it. I try and be respectful. I'm very convicted about littering because it's God's creation. And I need to take care of what he's given me to take care of. Just like if someone buys you a car, they bought you the car for you to drive, you to take your friends to McDonald's, you to enjoy. But when someone buys you a car, don't just trash the thing. Treat it like it was a gift and take care of it. So there's my humanitarian word for the day, or wildlife conservationist word for the day. I don't know. But regardless, so as Christians, hey, let's balance those two things. And actually, I think this is like an olive branch that we can use to reach out to other people, because I don't think the hippies have figured out, the remaining hippies who didn't get saved in the Jesus movement, right? The new gen of hippies that I was raised up around. Like, I don't think they realize that, the Bible actually, a biblical worldview, it promotes conservationism in its best and truest sense. Because if we're all just animals, then I have no incentive, to do anything other than take care of, me and do what works best for me. So anyway, I've gone longer than I intended. Love you guys. Have a great day. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. And hopefully we won't have an earthquake knock everything over. Adios.